Hey everybody, welcome to
Hello.
Pop Show. It's your me BP1 and BP2. Bit of a longer video for you today, and that is because this is a request from Angie. Thanks, Angie.
Rolling Stones, Angie.
Angie sent us a Bias Coffee request of this one from a Mr. Ballon. Top 2 videos with disturbing backstories. So it could be some distressing content in this one. Don't know. It just says it at the bottom. Warning: distressing content. So we don't know what to expect, but it is a request, and we won't hang around too long. We're just going to get straight into it. So let's see what he's got to say.
3 progressively more disturbing stories, and at the end of each of them, I will share the video that is famously associated with them. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right channel, because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please replace the like button's sleeping pills with caffeine pills right before their 14-hour plane ride from Hawaii to Okinawa, Japan. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories.
Coming in, Ballon. What you got for us? What stories?
We're gonna make it. Number 3.
In June of 2018, 18-year-old straight-A student Tyler Turner graduated from his high school in Central California. In the fall of that year, he was scheduled to go to the University of California, Merced with a full scholarship. He planned to study biochemical engineering because he was born with cerebral palsy and wanted to help other people with the condition. In August of that year, one of Tyler's friends said they wanted to go skydiving to celebrate their birthday. Tyler was nervous about it, but he had never done it before and figured, you know what, it'll be fun, I'll do it. His mother, Francine, who was very close with her son, was very nervous about her son jumping out of a plane, and so she asked if she could tag along to provide moral support and maybe take some pictures, and he said that was fine. So on the 6th of the month, Tyler and his mother hopped in the car and drove over an hour north to the Lodi Parachute Center, where they met up with Tyler's other 3 friends. They were all very nervous, but very excited.
I mean, the sign looks
so the group went inside the
away,
main building, and Tyler went up to the counter, and he paid $100 for a single tandem jump from 13,000 feet. A tandem jump is when 2 people jump together under one parachute. And so most commonly, you're going to have the instructor who's got the parachute on his or her back, and then on their chest, harnessed at 4 different points, is going to be their student or whoever they're jumping with, and they don't have a parachute. They're just tethered to the instructor who has the parachute. And so in this case, Tyler would be strapped onto his instructor. And so the advantage for Tyler as a first-time jumper is that he would not need to do anything once they're in free fall. The instructor would be 100% in control of keeping them steady in the air, of pulling the parachute, of dealing with any malfunctions, of flying the canopy, and of landing. It's all done by the instructor. After paying, Tyler and his mother walked over and met his instructor, the guy he'd be strapped onto. It was a 25-year-old man named Young Kwan who told him he had jumped over 700 times. And so Young told Tyler that he needed to watch a safety video before they did anything else. And so Tyler and his mother walked into the room, they sat down, the TV turned on, and a very simple safety video came on. And partway through it, another...
I mean, fair play, but talk about, I mean, I could tell you, I could tell you I'll brush my teeth. I walk into the bathroom, then you grab your toothbrush, then you get your tooth. Do you know what I mean? We know how you brush your teeth. Get up to the point where they're at in the plane, he jumps out.
Are you a water on first, then toothpaste, or toothpaste then water on?
A little bit of water, a little bit of toothpaste, then back into the water.
Right. For the full backstory, because, you know, we don't want to miss any of it.
Keep going.
Our instructor walked in and just turned it off and told Tyler and his mother, you've seen enough, you guys can go. Francine was a little bit alarmed at this behavior because it seemed odd to skip over safety when you're jumping out of a plane for the first time, but she figured, you know what, they must know what they're doing, I'm sure it's fine. Just before 10 a.m., Young helped Tyler get into his tandem jump harness that would allow him to connect onto Young's chest, and then afterward, Tyler walked over to his mom, gave her a big hug, told her he loved her, and then he departed his mother and walked his way over to the staging area where he and the other jumpers, that included his friends, were waiting for the plane to start so they could actually board. While they waited, Tyler was really nervous, and his instructor picked up on it, and so to put Tyler at ease, he began filming Tyler and interviewing him about his upcoming jump to kind of make light of the whole situation, and it seemed to work.
My name is Tyler Turner.
What are you doing here?
I am going to jump out of a plane.
It's your first time.
First time indeed. That's my mom over there. Hello, very loving mom. Done a lot for me in my life. more that she'll help me with more of my life because I want to make it.
See, I mean,
After they
again,
recorded this video, the plane was ready to go, so it was time to start boarding. And so Tyler and his instructor
tin
walked
shack.
over, but Tyler stopped on the tarmac. He took a knee and prayed, and then he stood back up, he turned to his mother, he waved one more time, and then he boarded the plane. After a little while, the plane took off, and then after a little while longer, it was up at 13,000 feet, flying in circular patterns. And that's when Francine started looking up, looking for her son, and at some point she started seeing jumpers come out of the plane. And they were so far away, she couldn't possibly make out who was who. And so as the jumpers began pulling their parachutes, and all the different colored parachutes are lighting up the sky, she was trying to remember what color her son's parachute was, but she couldn't remember. And so she asked the other people that were watching, that were relatives or friends of the people up there, if they knew what color her son's parachute was, but nobody knew. As they got lower and lower, and you could actually start to make out who the jumpers were, she didn't see her son. And that's because her son's parachute never opened, and unfortunately his instructor, Yang, was not able to fix the malfunction or fire off the reserve, and so they both crashed into the ground, killing them both instantly. Tyler's family sued the owner of the parachute facility after they discovered Tyler's instructor, Yang, was not even certified to be an instructor, and so would not have received any of the required training on how to handle parachute malfunctions, and the owner knew about it. Investigators also discovered that 20 people had died skydiving at this facility under the same owner, a ridiculously high number of fatalities that most people involved are attributing to the owner's general disregard for safety. And ultimately, a judge agreed with that sentiment and awarded the Turner family $40 million from the owner of this facility.
Right.
Where's he going to get $40 million from?
You called it almost immediately. If you turn up to a place that had that sign that looked like it had been done by felt tip pens.
Yes.
And when you're going to get out on the plane, I mean, it was like a corrugated, or it just looked awful. Oh, mate, it's so awful. You know, like you said, that's his last video.
That's his last video. 20 other deaths. I mean, after one death, you think that would be enough to shut the facility down, not wait for another 19 to happen.
And then, how does that happen? How does that even happen? It's not like it don't get reported, is it?
Well, no. I mean, my son's gone missing. I last saw him going skydiving. And, all right, so he got awarded X amount of millions, but I doubt they got that kind of money. Even did he pay insurance? I mean, doesn't sound like his track record for safety and insurance is very good either.
Oh, man.
Oh, all right. Okay. One day.
Well, that is sad. Yeah.
Yeah, very sad. Didn't check the reviews then on old on the website. I went once, died, never doing it again.
Yeah. God. All right, number 2.
Okay. Narco Corridor.
In 1962, Chileno Sanchez was born into a poor family in the Mexican state of Sinaloa. When he was just 15 years old, one of his sisters was assaulted by a very rich and powerful man in their town, and so he never got punished for it. 2 years later, when Chileno was 17, he saw this man at a party, and he walked up to him and shot him in the head, killing him instantly. After the murder, Chileno fled to Tijuana before ultimately crossing the U.S. border into Los Angeles, where he stayed with his aunt. He worked odd jobs like picking vegetables and selling cars before he ultimately went into business with his brother, who was back in Mexico, and he worked with him to smuggle Mexicans into the U.S. But that operation stopped in 1984 when his brother was murdered in Tijuana. To commemorate his brother, Chileno, who always loved music, wrote a song about him. And he formatted the song in the typical Mexican ballad style called corrido, but his lyrics were graphic and gritty, something nobody else did when they wrote a corrido. Chileno spoke honestly and openly, not only about how his brother was killed, but also the struggles of living around drug trafficking and violence in Mexico. Shortly after writing the song, Chileno wound up in jail in Tijuana, Mexico, and while he was there, he would sing the song he wrote about his brother, and other inmates heard it and loved it. They had never heard a corrido sung like that. And so they asked Chileno if he would write songs about them and their exploits. Soon, Chileno was being commissioned by all these inmates in this prison to write their songs in exchange for money and for favors. When Chileno got out of prison, his unique songwriting abilities had spread beyond the prison walls to other criminals and drug traffickers and kingpins in Mexico, and before long, Chileno was being approached by those people to write their songs. His corridos pioneered a new subgenre of music called narco corrido for their ties to the narcotics
Right.
industry. Some people today compare the style and lyrics of the narco corrido to gangster rap. By 1987, Chelino's music was not just being shared amongst his paying clients. It had spread into Los Angeles and all over Mexico and was becoming very popular, even though it wasn't being played on the radio because radios thought his lyrics were too graphic. And so it was spreading largely because of word of mouth and because Chelino himself would go to car washes and street corners and he would sell his cassettes to anybody who would take them. By 1991, Chelino was so famous that he actually went on tour. And everywhere he went, the venue would be completely sold out. But given what his narco corridos were about, largely about drug trafficking and the people that are involved in that ecosystem, the people that would actually come to his performances were often rough and dangerous people, or were at least tied to rough and dangerous people. In 1992, when Chelino was performing in California, while he was on stage, this 33-year-old guy rushed onto stage with him and drew a gun on him, and Chelino, who was always carrying a weapon himself, drew his pistol and fired at this guy first. And then what ensued was this crazy gunfight on stage, practically point blank, between Chelino and this guy. And they both managed to shoot each other. Chelino got shot in the lung, and this guy got shot in the mouth. They would both survive, but 8 audience members also got shot, and one of them actually died. This made international headlines and, by all accounts, should have devastated Chelino's career. But in fact, it had the opposite effect. It made him 10 times more famous because Chelino, he was representing narco corrido music. And so in being the face of that, he kind of represented drug trafficking and criminals and outlaws all over Mexico and in the United States. And so he was kind of representing a very tough group of people. And so for him to have stood his ground on stage and shot first at this guy coming to attack him, it made him look brave. It made him look like a warrior. It validated him as the right person to be the face of narco corridos. But Chelino also understood that this probably was not the last time that someone was going to try to hurt him. That in virtue of being the face of narco culture, there's bound to be people that are very violent that don't like him, and they might come after him too. And so he actually told his inner circle that he thought his days were numbered, that at some point someone was going to kill him. 4 months after the shootout, Chelino was back home in Sinaloa, Mexico, performing at a concert that his friends had told him he shouldn't do because he had lots of enemies in his hometown. But Chelino really wanted to do it. He got into the venue, he got on stage, his band was getting ready, thousands of people were coming into the audience, and before the show started, somebody handed him a note. And so Chelino takes the note, he's smiling, he's kind of looking around at the crowd, and then he looks down at the note and he reads it, and right away his expression completely changes. He looks distressed, he rubs his brow, he frowns, he kind of looks up at the crowd like he's looking for someone, and then he just goes blank in the face, and he's looking out like he's looking past the crowd. And it's this long period of time where he's just blank staring into the audience. And then all of a sudden he just snaps out of it, takes the note, puts it in his pocket, picks up the microphone, and proceeds to give one of his best live performances to date. After the concert was over, Chelino made a special effort to say bye to everybody in his band, and he said bye to some people in the crowd, and then finally, after this kind of long drawn-out goodbye, he walked out the back door. Shortly after, he was kidnapped, tied up, and then shot in the back of the head, execution style. It would turn out that note he received on stage was from his killers, who we don't know exactly who they are still to this day, but the note said, after this performance, we're going to kill you. And so that was the reason Chelino was so distressed.
After the performance,
we're
going to kill you.
And
they did.
Turns out, I mean, what can you say? I mean, like I say, if you're hanging out with that kind of thing, not at first though, is it? I mean, 50 Cent, he got shot. Obviously, Tupac and
got shot.
Although so, I mean, he's gone a way back on this, and he sort of eked out as much info as he can on Chelino that we've never heard of. But yeah, I don't know. Would you sort of try and do a runner before the gig ended? Would you have taken your friend's advice and not gone back home and done the gig in the first place? Or
that's true.
Just stopped hanging around with that kind of thing anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a difficult one.
Just going to go and change my Stetson. Be back in a second.
Yeah.
Road runner it down the road.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay. Alrighty.
Because whoever it was, he obviously understood it was a credible threat. But instead of panicking, he just decided he would give an amazing performance and then face his destiny. And so when he went outside, He knew he was going to get murdered, and he did. Here is the moment Cellino was handed that note on stage, informing him he had been marked for death.
What do you do? What do you do? Well, I think I'd have had a slightly different reaction.
Despite the fact that today...
Well, the funny thing was, he said there's thousands of people there. It looked like he was in a little club to me.
Well,
I think there might have been
egged it.
Egged it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably like some nan's birthday party or something. Anyway.
All right.
Let's keep going with this one. What did that say?
Dead hang.
Dead hang. Okay, dead hang. All right.
There is already tons of shocking content on the internet. There is still something truly insane about Wu Yongning's videos. In 2017, Wu was a 26-year-old climbing enthusiast who was dubbed China's first rooftopper. A rooftopper is someone who, usually illegally, climbs onto rooftops, cranes, smokestacks, big antennas, skyscrapers, or any other really high, dangerous location.
Yeah.
Almost always, these daredevils are going to these incredibly dangerous locations in order to capture footage of themselves so they can post it to the internet in hopes that it goes viral and they become famous and make a bunch of money. But because there are so many people competing for the internet's attention, rooftoppers really need to push the envelope if they want to stand out and make it big. And Wu Yongning did just that, and the internet rewarded him with millions of followers and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most rooftoppers would go to the tops of these incredible locations and then take selfies of themselves standing there posing at the top. Wu would do that, but he also did a couple other things that nobody else was doing that kind of became his trademarks. The first one was he would dangle over the edge of the building or the crane or the antenna that he was holding on to, and he would do pull-ups, but he would keep doing them until he reached muscle failure and then would barely be able to pull himself back up to safety.
Mate.
Another trademark move is he would go to the top of these huge buildings and he would get right on the edge and he would do a handstand and then he would pull one arm back. So he's doing a one-armed handstand and then he would tilt his body as far as he could over the edge until he couldn't do it any farther and he let himself come back over to safety. And then perhaps the most difficult to watch trademark was when Wu would basically run up to the edge of buildings and stop just short. And he wouldn't just run to the edge, he would use a self-balancing scooter and go as fast as he could right to the edge of the building and stop just short. And over again, he'd go right to the edge and stop, where he's literally an inch away from tumbling off the edge. Or he'd line himself up where he knew exactly how far he was from the edge, and he would do these really aggressive somersaults forward, and he would stop with his legs dangling off the edge of the building. And of course, all of these trademark moves were done without any safety equipment, and most times Wu did these stunts without anybody there to potentially pull him back up if he gets stuck. About 3/4 of the way through 2017, Wu had posted over 500 videos and live streaming clips to various social media sites, and he was starting to make some real money off of it. On one video sharing site alone, he had made over $80,000 just from donations that had come in. And so it was clear this was becoming a career. But as the money and the fame were coming into Wu, he started to realize that in order for him to stay on top and keep earning at this level, he would need to continuously outperform his last big stunt. And already he was brushing up against death on virtually every video he took. In early November of that year, Wu heard about a competition that was offering $15,000 to its winner. The details of this competition are hazy at best, but from the sounds of it, it was a viral video competition. Make the most viral video and you win the prize. This competition served as motivation for Wu to finally attempt his craziest stunt yet. He figured if he had the footage of this particular stunt, he was sure to win this competition, and with the prize money, he could pay for his wedding and cover his mother's medical expenses. And so on November 8th, Wu traveled to the Huaiyan International Center in central China. This massive 62-story skyscraper would be the tallest building Wu had ever performed a stunt on. The public was only able to get up to the 44th floor, and so Wu had to take the elevator up to somewhere between the 40th and 44th floor, at which point he climbed out of a window and free climbed his way all the way up to the top. So 20 additional floors just climbing the side of a skyscraper. Once he got to the rooftop, he set up his tripod and his camera, and he turned on his live stream. and then he walked around and he began preparing himself for the stunt. Live stream viewers that tuned in would see Wu sitting on the edge of the skyscraper, and he's meticulously wiping down the edge of this building. It's the area he'll be grabbing onto to perform his stunt, which was going to be his trademark pull-ups. And so after several minutes of Wu cleaning this ledge, he begins to lower himself where his arms are still tucked up over the ledge. So he's not hanging, he's got his arms kind of anchored on the top. He's like testing the edge of this lip. And he kind of feels around and he can tell that it's not a good grip. It's not good enough for him to go down to a full extension. And so he pulls himself back up and he goes back to wiping down the edge. And from the looks of it, it seems like Wu is actually pretty nervous about this stunt. And normally when you watch Wu's videos, he doesn't seem nervous at all, even leading up to his stunt. But this one just seemed different. And so after again wiping down this ledge as much as he possibly could, he gets himself ready, lowers himself onto his arms, he lets his legs drop over the edge of the building, and then he goes to full extension. And from there, he does 2 complete pull-ups, and then after the second pull-up, he begins to try to pull himself back up to safety. But he's fatigued and he can't quite get himself up over the edge. He starts to use his feet to try to use the glass to push himself back up, but he can't get a grip. And for the next 15 seconds, Wu is desperately trying to get himself up and over this ledge. He's trying to muscle himself up, but it's obvious he's completely fatigued. I mean, he did free climb almost 20 stories to get up there, and so it makes sense his arms would be tired. But there's nobody up there to help pull him up. And so after a while, he goes back to full extension because he can't do anything, and he looks down as if he's sizing up if he can survive this fall, which he obviously can't. And then the camera picks up a sort of whimpering sound that appears to come from Wu, and then he loses his grip and he falls to his death. Here is a segment of his final video right before he fell.
Oh no. Inappropriate, yeah. Poor bugger.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why? Why do it? What, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, but you got these parkour guys doing this. You got Alex Honnold doing free solo up stuff just as high as that.
So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's video, let us know in the comments what it is and where you found it. So give us the timestamp.
Okay.
If you're the first to do that, we'll...
I mean, you are... He's right. When you're in that situation, that's just you. There's no one to help you. That's it.
Yeah. You know, you got to know your limitations, I guess. But I mean, the bit there that he said where he free climbed up 20 stories, so it's probably his stunt that he did. You know, he knew he could. You know, generally I can get about 10, 15 pull-ups, make it look like I'm struggling, but still got enough. But he probably used up a bit too much energy climbing up there.
I would have said so. Yeah, it sounds like it, doesn't it? Didn't give himself enough rest at the top before trying that. So,
but all right. Well, I mean, the guy can certainly spin out the stories, you know. But apart from that, some interesting stuff there. Disturbing, not as disturbing as we were expecting, but interesting. But
interesting,
okay, there you go.
Interesting.
Not our usual sort of stuff, but
no.
We'll do it. We got asked to do
something different. Yeah, thanks Angie for giving us something different on the channel. If you want to be like Angie, you can always head over to buyuscoffee.com/BritPopsReact. Get us a video that you want us to react to. Interesting character, that guy as well, Mr. Ballon. You can always head over to his channel because obviously he's desperate for subscribers. 8.24 million. I mean,
anything we can do to help. I mean, I even put a cap on backwards just to, help him out.
Storylines as well. All right. Thanks for joining us today at BritPopsReact. Till tomorrow. It's goodbye from me.
Bye from him. Oh.
He's a 20th century boy.